Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome to the stream tonight, guys. Hello, everybody in the chat. I see a lot of you guys are already out there. Thank you for being with me here early on. Guys, it's a big day. It is Alien Invasion Tuesday? Tuesday, guys. The aliens decided to invade on a Tuesday. Can you believe it? So, I woke up this morning. Everybody's talking about the alien invasion. Alien invasion's going down. Oh, boy. I said, hell yeah, I got to get in some of this alien invasion. So if you're not familiar, apparently Cliff High, if you want to know about the lore, Cliff High was initially supporting me like a year ago. But then he was talking all about the Palladians and being super weird and what have you. So I kind of like told him to tone it down. He unfollowed me, whatever. Don't know, don't care. Point being, apparently he made some sort of prediction in the 90s or something that like 39 days after Donald Trump showed up on Joe Rogan, the aliens were going to come invade. So spoiler alert, aliens didn't come and invade, guys. Bad news. No aliens. Very sad. Now, what I'm going to say is that aliens are almost certainly a PSYOP. Psychological operation, that's what PSYOP stands for if you are new to the conspiracy communities. But the genius part about this PSYOP is that it doesn't mean aliens are fake. Aliens can be a PSYOP and aliens can also be real at the same time. It's a 5D checkers PSYOP that's being played right now. That's the beauty of this. So, even though the alien invasion did not come today, even though the United States government is almost certainly using the alien invasion as some sort of distraction or excuse for the evil shit that they've done with technology they don't want to admit they have, aliens can still be real. Ashton could be the alien. In fact, guys, I'm looking forward to the new narratives. It's been like a year, and there's been no new Ashton narratives. I do have running those. I'm ready for the Ashton is a CIA plant. Ashton is controlled opposition. Like, can we fast forward the narratives to the ones that are more fun right now? You know? These old narratives have gotten stale, you know. Ashton's a meanie. Ashton doesn't understand physics. We won't explain why he's wrong, but he doesn't get it. Ashton's making up stuff. He's hurting the families. Those were the old narratives. We need some new ones, like Ashton is an alien. Ashton is a CIA operative. Ashton, honestly, we can go back to Ashton as a Russian plant. Whatever we want. We are the change. Thank you. No alien sheiks for you. Disappointing. Disappointing, guys. No alien sheiks once again. Now, in all seriousness, guys, I actually think that aliens are real, but also aliens are being used as a PSYOP. I actually believe that. I actually think that aliens might exist out there, and we're literally using it as cover for the crazy advanced technology that we have that we might have gotten from aliens. How crazy is that? We might have gotten the technology from aliens, or, you know, whatever you call aliens. I just use the term broadly. We might have gotten the technology from them. We might be using them to cover up for the horrible, evil stuff that we do. And they might also just be real too. It is multifaceted. What a crazy situation that we got going on here, guys. The alien thing is just getting... It's bizarre. This is why I don't deal with the whole alien narrative, because there's so much going on there, and there's so much emotion packed into it, and so many vested interests in it being this or that thing that's going on, where I'm just like, I don't care. You just tell me how the technology works, and whatever. You can just call it whatever the hell you want to call it. You know, call it cryptids or demons or angels or ghosts or, you know, extraterrestrials, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter. See, there we go. Now the new narratives have dropped. See, this is how we control the narrative. I don't know if it's beneficial for me to control the narrative in such a way, but there we go. Okay. You know what? We're going to skip to the thing that just dropped. So the thing I'm most proud of is that I was able to take the MH370 videos and turn it into a mainstream narrative that cannot be dismissed. End of the day, that's the best thing that we could have hoped for. Sarfati is a knob. Thank you for your donation, Sarfati is a knob. Appreciate you. Why? Because this thing being real, the MH370 videos being real, this is bigger than the United States government can admit. And this is going to come back around. This is going to all make sense. This is too big for the government to admit. The government admitting this is real, like, literally will collapse people's minds. And the one thing the government loves more than killing people and censoring people is controlling people's beliefs on how they think that the government's perfect. They love to make people believe that the government doesn't make any mistakes. So the government can probably never admit the MH370 videos are real. It's kind of like with the Kennedy assassination, JFK assassination, how we can't admit that we did it because we're evil. We're super evil. So the best thing that we can hope for is that they can't make it go away, that we seed it into the public's mind so that every time MH370 is brought up, there's always somebody going, that was the plane that got zapped by the orbs. Because even if people try to laugh it off, in the back of their minds, they're going, what if that really is what happened on the plane? You know, what if that really is? End of the day, that is what really happened to the plane. That is what really happened to MH370. It's what really happened to the plane. It wasn't some suicidal pilot that was studying ocean topography or some stupid shit like that. It wasn't a plane that magically crashed in the ocean with nobody seeing it, without leaving a debris field, with none of our satellites seeing it. It's not what happened. The United States government is implicated in the disappearance of the plane. So just a couple hours ago, a new interview dropped on Candace Owens with this guy whose name I already forgot, but he is a former CIA operative. Now, the thing I love about the CIA interviews is that we learn insight into how the people who worked in the CIA think. And right off the bat, what I'm going to say before I show these clips is that I'm like 100% sure I'm smarter than the CIA at this point. Like, this CIA person gets like a few key facts wrong about the plane that we're gonna talk about. Spoiler, they talk about MH370. But at the same time, they understand what the CIA is capable of. So here's the thing, guys, is that some of you guys say, like, hey, Ashton, why do you believe this person or that person? This person was wrong about this person, this thing or that thing. That's fine. Like, you judge everybody through the lens at which their level of expertise is. So if there's somebody talking about the MH370 situation, we realize that a lot of their information might be coming secondhand. They might even get secondhand information from me. But when they're talking about their CIA stuff and the stuff the CIA does, if they work for the CIA, in that case, they're speaking firsthand. So we don't always just dismiss everything somebody says or accept everything somebody says because of some other statement they made. Judge every statement somebody makes independently. Okay, now that's been said, well, let's watch this clip.
Why is the CIA intent on destroying everywhere?
That's a fantastic question. When the CIA was created, in its charter, and Truman later regretted, as you know, that's in our book, he regretted creating it and said it was casting a shadow over our freedom. He deeply regretted even creating it. But in the CIA's charter, it gives them unbridled authority to do covert operations, supposedly accountable to the president, which they never are. And using the doctrine of plausible denial, which existed when I was there, the CIA can do anything it wants to any country and any person as long as the government isn't blamed for it. And they do. They do all of that. So it's a monstrous juggernaut. And when they did the National Security Act of 1947, and especially the National Security Council Directive 10-2, they opened Pandora's box to the CIA, and the devil came out. And the CIA became this massive, murderous organization. I think last estimate, they've been responsible for the death of 7 million people around the world. Our CIA has done that. And it's time for that to stop. It's time for that part of the CIA to be removed. I think they should keep the Director of Intelligence and the other ones that Truman intended, but the CIA's covert operational authority needs to be eliminated entirely. And that's what I'm pushing for and proposing, and as well as Bobby Kennedy and others, and that has to be done because it is a monstrous, wicked, evil organization that has a secret budget with our tax dollars that is killing, murdering people, and overturning democratic governments. Time to stop.
Wow. Okay. Jesus, chat. Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, I didn't even know this was true for a fact. I just assumed it was, that the CIA is an evil organization that basically can do whatever the fuck they want so long as it's being done outside the United States. That's basically the one limitation. The CIA can basically just kill whoever they want as long as they're not an American and they're not in the United States. Be perfectly clear with the chat, I'm probably never leaving the United States ever again because I'm actually afraid that the CIA will justify drone striking me or some shit like that if I were to ever leave the country. Just keeping 100% real with you. So we learned that absolutely the CIA can do whatever the hell they want, covert operation wise. We learned that they're accountable to nobody, accountable to no one. And supposedly they're supposed to be accountable to the president, but at the end of the day, they really aren't at all either. So we look at this information and we go, wow, it's the CIA that's in charge of the MH370 operation. The CIA is the one in charge of that operation. It's not the military. It's military intelligence that's happening in this operation that we're seeing in this drone video. This is a CIA operation. They have their own assets. That might be even their drone for all we know. But we don't really know much about how that operates. Also, the other thing was that also confirmed the whole thing about plausible deniability. Yes, that somebody just mentioned plausible deniability. How often have you guys heard me say on podcasts, it's all about plausible deniability with the government? They want to be able to say they don't know what happened. The AARO is the same way, and it cracks me up that the UFO people haven't realized it yet. How is the AARO operating? How are they obfuscating all this stuff? They use plausible deniability. You keep the information compartmentalized in such a way where only a small number of people know the truth. The people that know the truth are never allowed to talk to the media or anybody. The people that don't know the truth are allowed to talk to the media. They can give their true opinion because they're not in the know. This is how it works with the AARO. None of the people who are out there going, we don't have any crash stuff or whatever, none of them are in the know. This is plausible deniability. This is also why I've been pressing for certain people in the government to be asked about MH370, because I know how they operate. It's plausible deniability, but I know the people that know. If you ask Marco Rubio or Chuck Schumer or President Obama about MH370, they're going to have to dodge the question because they know the truth. They know that something happened to that plane. They know those videos are real. So if you ask the people that know, that's how you do journalism and you get to the truth, because you force them to not be able to stop hiding behind plausible deniability. You force them to make on the record statements about information they know. And this is relevant because this is what I did with Salvatore Pais. Now, some of you guys may have said, well, I don't know what your guys' reactions are to the Salvatore Pais interview. But some of you may say, hey, I was expecting more or what have you from the interview. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to expect. But if you look at the questions that I was asking Sal, you'll realize I was getting on the record statements from somebody and I was asking very specific questions. Like, for example, when Sal says, we start talking about the patents. And I say, these people said these patents were operable. And Sal comes back and says, all of the patents are enabled. And I pushed back and I said, enabled is not the same as operable. We really need to be specific here. And then he kind of dodged the question after that as well. So these are the things that are important because this is how, even in a game of limited information, and that's what we're dealing with, you can find truth out because we can deduce information. We can rule out based on negative responses that we get other pieces of information. And yes, I went hard on Sal, even though I love Sal. I had to go hard on him because I know too much now. And I want to know the truth about where people stand. And I learned quite a bit about Sal. One of the big things that I learned from the Sal Pais interview is that he was withholding information. I got my spider sense was going off, and I could tell that he was withholding information. I don't know the exact nature of that information. If I had to guess, I would say that Sal worked on black projects and projects that are classified that he has NDAs on, that he's not even allowed to acknowledge the existence of those projects. If those projects are UFO projects, I don't know. They could also just be other classified propulsion stuff that's out there. Hard to say, but he knows more than he's letting on. And the other part, too, that I learned, this is very important, this is kind of just high level over the whole interview, is that the first time I talked to Sal, I would never have guessed that Sal's somebody that believes in 0-point energy, for example. The Hatch Act just has to do with political stuff, so that's why Sal couldn't say anything about Trump or Biden or anything like that. They're just not allowed to make political statements. But crap, you just lost my train of thought. This is why I got to keep going on my train of thought and to not get sidetracked by questions in the chat. So he knows more than he lets on. And the other thing that I learned, and this is super important, is that Sal 100% believes in 0-point energy. 0-point energy, the ether, he believes in it. He even believes in negative energy, but he doesn't use those terms intentionally. We learned that because when I brought these concepts up to him, he dodged using those terms and literally told me outright, he's from the world of academia. That's the world that he's from. He's from the world of academia that doesn't accept 0-point energy can be used to extract energy. They don't accept that the ether is real. They don't accept that negative energy is there. He literally is pandering to academia. Sal is, and he would admit that he is. And I can tell that he's struggling with that. Because academia, there's no place for somebody like Salvatore Pais in academia. He's an engineer that's worked on black projects that knows about physics that's real that academia does not accept. That's huge. So learning this was a big revelation because now we get a really good mindset, psychological mindset for the guy that Sal Pais is. Sal Pais is not an intelligence operative, no chance. Sal Pais is a guy that has seen magical technology, and somehow they got the patents published. I think he doesn't even know how the patents got published. And he's a guy that probably is to some level wants recognition for the science and the work that he's done. But more than that, he sees the implications of the science itself. And he sees the destructive capability of the science. I think that the real physicists that understand the nature of this stuff, they see the weaponization of it as inevitable. And they see that, oh, once you're writing equations that show you can amplify energy, logical conclusion is you're going to hit a level of energy where it's extremely disruptive, extremely destructive as well. Pais. And yes, the quantum vacuum is just another form for the ether. I wouldn't even say fermions. Generally, the only difference between fermions and bosons are that fermions cannot hold the same point in space and time. In the ether, we can't even rule out. There's a theory called one electron hypothesis, that really there's only one electron in the entire universe. And what this speaks to is this idea that the ether could be this extra dimension that's everywhere and nowhere at the same time, which we can't really rule out. Even if there is an ether of energy, sea of energy, it doesn't necessarily mean, like, it may be weirder than we imagine because of this idea of what an extra dimension really means for our reality. Okay, so let's look at the second clip before I get too sidetracked here, guys. I was watching this TV show the other day, by the way, The Foundation. It's not terrible, but not my favorite, but I just love the sci-fi stuff, guys. Love the sci-fi. So grandson, yeah, if the grandson thing wasn't so long, I would play it again right now. Okay, so here's the second clip. Now, what was his name again? Something Ships or something like that? Whatever.
To your question, there are all of these CIA black sites. There are, Area 51 would be a place that we have no idea what goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
We also know Diego Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
What goes on at these places?
Oh, Diego Garcia is a very secret facility. Of course, we're there. Intelligence is there. Certain sectors of the military are there, but nobody knows what they're doing at Diego Garcia in terms of the public. It just sits there doing the intelligence community's bidding. And of course, recent reports have come out about Diego Garcia's possible role in the Malaysian Flight 370 and its utter disappearance. In my view, there were on board Malaysian, you may know this, Flight 370 on board were a company that had engineers that were developing chips that could function at room temperature, supercompute at room temperature. Extremely valuable technology to defense and intelligence. They were on that plane. And we mentioned before, I think you have interviewed somebody on this. They finally released some of the footage of the aircraft before it disappeared, and there's objects rotating around the plane, changing its course, and then poof, it's just gone. No wreckage, and the wreckage they claim they found an ocean away wasn't even from that flight. So there's something that really needs the American people to look into, and maybe this new administration, because I think something really nefarious happened there.
I think that the government has technology that we couldn't even imagine.
Do.
Yeah, and that's what all of these bases are meant to protect.
Wow, chat. What? I am just reeling. I watched this like 45 minutes before we went live. I was going to take a nap, and I watched this, and I'm just going, holy shit. This is a former CIA operative, Kevin Shipp, just 100% red-pilled on MH370. 100% red-pilled on it. When you've got former CIA operatives, I'm sure he was like a GS-15 or whatever the highest rank is, right? When you've got a former CIA operative and they're looking at the videos and they're looking at the evidence that you're presenting, and they're going, yeah, so the CIA does some horrible covert shit and they now account for nobody. And oh, by the way, like MH370 is almost certainly a covert operation, and it was related to these 20 semiconductor engineers. Like, bro, whoa, holy shit. Andy Delafield, wow. Dirty Martini Fund going up. This tech will come out safely. The sciences are converging. The old guard is phasing out. Cheers to the future. Thank you very much, man. The huge donation. And you know what? I super agree with this message. The sciences are converging. I'll admit something. I didn't realize that chemistry was so paramount to fusion, although in retrospect, it makes sense. Because you're saying, okay, take these two elements, create this element plus some energy. Makes sense. Now we're going to throw that all out when we come to this idea of the ether. But still, this unifies chemistry, physics, potentially biology. All the sciences start to come together. Wow. Thank you very much, Andy. That's huge. Who else donated when I wasn't paying attention? Nick, thank you very much. Ashton's relative, put him in charge of the CIA. Talking about the dullest connection. Hey, Nick, that's just like my second cousin or third cousin or something like that. So it might be that one of my cousins, something or others, uncles or something like that, is connected to the CIA. Can't rule it out, chat. Can't rule it out. I have the proof. Ashton is controlled by globalist, Luciferian, alien anal probers. Mick Leonard, thank you for the super sticker. You guys are popping off tonight. Dancing Ashton tonight. I don't know. It's unlikely tonight, guys. You have to small doses, guys. This Candace Crossdog is huge. Thanks for another sweet Sal interview. Yeah, the Candace Owens thing. Wow. Okay, so the fact that there's a former CIA operative that is just parroting what we're saying about MH370, it means one of two things. Either, and maybe both, but A, that this thing has hit the zeitgeist, like there's no making this go away. We've got random CIA operatives on Candace Owens saying that MH370 was taken because of the Freescale semiconductor engineers. Literally explaining the same thing that I've been explaining about how people don't understand how important these microchips are. People are like, oh, why would they take an airplane? Like, I've talked to Jesse Michaels about the plane thing several times. I like him. Good guy. By the way, check out his stuff. But I can tell that he's super incredulous over the motive. He's like, did you find out anything more about like the semiconductor people? Like, you can tell he never really like bought into that side of it. But that is like the most fundamental aspect of it. It's like, what's the motive? Those engineers are definitely the motive, no doubt. 20 microchip engineers on board this plane, and people don't realize how huge microchips are. They don't realize how important it is. Like, people are like, Ashton, what are you working on with your EtherTech stuff? Like, weren't you trying to sell this magnetic motor? Well, I realized, why am I selling a magnetic motor? Magnetic motor is like it's like an antique. It's neat. Maybe you can sell it for a bunch of money for somebody. What do I really want to do? I want to sell microchips that are free energy microchips. That's how you become a trillionaire in this world. Literal trillionaire. Is that you make a microchip, and you can put that microchip into anything. You can put it into your phone. You can put it into your computer. You can put it into a toy. And whatever device you put that microchip in never runs out of energy, ever. That's what I want to do. That's where the future is really headed. We've lost probably 100 years from the CIA and various other countries hiding this technology from us. The good news is we can leapfrog to where we should be by skipping ahead. Like, people would be amazed by a magnetic motor that is over unity free energy. They'd be amazed by that. But even that's primitive at this point. At this point, we should be building microchips on the tiniest scales that we can then amplify up on a wafer, on an array, and make something that's just straight up magic that can fit inside my phone. That's where we're at today. So there you go. As always, I just tell you guys exactly what my plans are, and there you go. Now you know it as well. And something I mentioned yesterday, or 2 days ago or 3 days ago, whenever, but is super huge, is that one of the biggest patterns that I've seen is that people discover this magical technology. And the first thing they do is they assume that everybody else is going to figure it out very rapidly. They go, oh, I figured out 0-point energy is the solution to everything. And the very next thing they do is they stop talking about it and they stop wanting to give away any secrets about it because they're like, oh, other people are going to figure this out. And I want to have the monopoly over how it works. And so they stop talking about it. But then when that ends up happening, nothing ends up happening. People don't figure it out because the brainwashing and the conditioning is that powerful. We quite literally have to give it away for free for people to even understand that it's real. And that's the difference. That's the reason why I keep pushing forward. I even keep telling people what my exact monetization plans are for this technology, even though I'm quite literally giving away information to potential future competitors. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to go mainstream until we hit a crucial point where everyone accepts that it's real. And unfortunately, that means that I, myself, other people are not going to be able to profit in a way that they would like to be able to profit, because until people believe that it's real, you can't make any money off of it. That's the problem. Commercialization is the problem, is that until people realize that free energy is possible, you can't make any money off a free energy device. No one's going to buy something they think is a scam. They have to understand that it's not a scam, and then everybody will be selling them. That's the world we live in. So there you guys go. It's true. The weaponization of this technology is too great to share to the general population. That is the view of the CIA, the intelligence community, as well as the controlled disclosure advocates. When I talk about the controlled disclosure advocates, I'm just going to name names. I'm talking about everybody you saw at the UFO hearing, even Michael Schellenberger, Mike Gold, Tim Gallaudet, Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Ross Coulthart, James Fox. All of these people that are connected to one another, they are reading off the same script, and that script says that this technology is too dangerous for the public to know about it. That's true. That's true. I think that they're right. I think the technology is too dangerous, actually. 100%. I do believe that. But I disagree that we should not be talking about it. I agree. I believe that we must talk about it because the technology is going to come out. The longer that we lie about it, the more damage we do to let's call it the moral fabric of society. The more we lie about it, the less people understand anything to be real, the more damage that will be done when it eventually does come out. I also believe that the only way that we avoid the apocalypse, which in this case is us destroying ourselves, is if we talk about the nature of this technology. That we talk about the fact that we have the capability of infinite energy, and that infinite energy means we can produce a black hole. Doomsday. It's easy to understand Doomsday when you say we can produce a black hole. That's what infinite energy means. So we need to talk about that. Why? Because people need to be shocked. People need to be alarmed. People need to go, okay, wow, this is way bigger than nuclear weapons. I was scared that we were going to destroy ourselves in a nuclear holocaust. And now you're telling me that there's a free energy holocaust waiting for us and it's going to happen pretty much inevitably. Just a matter of time. Yes, that's exactly what we need to be thinking about. We need to be thinking that we need to advance as a species and put guardrails in place, because otherwise we're definitely going to destroy ourselves. Like 100%, guys. 100%, we're going to destroy ourselves. And this is what Sal was saying. So I have the clip somewhere queued up, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I asked Sal, what was it about? Why did he want to go on Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan with me? You know, and he kind of laughed, and that offer still stands. If Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson's people are out there, Sal wants to come on with me. And I did not know what to expect. So I asked him, what do you want to tell those guys? And he took it in a direction that I did not expect. I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, like he would say, hey, here's real disclosure. Here's this science. Instead, his approach was unity. Unity. We need to come together or our planet is screwed. That's what he wanted to tell them. You don't really have to be an engineer to tell somebody that. So for that to be his message, that tells me that he sees the writing on the wall, and that writing on the wall spells doomsday. Doomsday. The other thing that's interesting is that a lot of these guys, Sal included, all speak of this doomsday event as if it's right around the corner. Some people have speculated that it is an alien invasion. Other people have speculated that it is a comet or asteroid that's going to hit the planet and wipe us out like the dinosaurs. Other people have speculated that the magnetic poles are going to flip. But it does link to this idea that Graham Hancock has had, that there has been like resets on a 12,000 year period. I hear this a lot, so much so that I can't really dismiss it. Keep in mind, guys, I am a skeptic by origin. People say, oh, no, you believe teleporting planes. Well, I believe teleporting planes because that's what literally happened. That's what all the evidence says happened. By trade, I'm actually quite skeptical. So when people start talking about these doomsday events or what have you, I say, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. But last year, this time, I was talking to Sal Pais for the first time, and he was telling me about plasma being the key to all this. And truthfully, back then, I had the same view I have now about the whole doomsday thing. I went, nah, this guy might be off his rocker. Like, what's he talking about with all this plasma stuff? It doesn't make any sense. And now I realize he was 100% right on the plasma thing. Like, it's all about plasma. I'm not even sure we can do these effects without plasma. That's how all in on the plasma front I am right now. I'm so all in on the plasma front that I went to Thanksgiving with my cousins who think that, some of them think that this is way too far out there. And I was like, I've basically been researching quantum mechanics and plasma physics for the last year straight. And my PhD physicist cousin just kind of looked at me and was like, wow. Like, actually didn't immediately just dismiss it with a funny joke. So, yes, I'm all in on the plasma thing. And the fact that Sal is saying, hey, there's some kind of doomsday event around the corner or whatever it is, I'm paying attention. Now, my odds are on Apophis. Dave brought up Apophis during our interview. Apophis is a meteor that or asteroid. I don't know. I don't know if it's from outside the solar system or not. Anyway, it's something that is going to come within a hair's distance of planet Earth in 2029. 2029. And when I say a hair's distance, I mean it's coming closer than our geostationary satellites. Our geostationary satellites are 40,000 kilometers away from the Earth, spinning around the Earth in geosynchronous orbit, right? Apophis is going to come closer than those, between the geostationary satellites and planet Earth. Okay? Good news is if we've got orbs or whatever, then Apophis is no danger to us at all. 1,000 feet long or whatever the hell this thing is, even if it's 1,000 meters, makes no difference. That's nothing. That seems scary, but when you've got orbs that can teleport an airplane, it's not really scary anymore. It's like not even a little bit scary. In fact, Apophis, even if it directly hit us, I did the calculations. Well, by doing the calculations, I ran a simulator. But it would only take out like Atlanta or like New York City. Who cares about New York City? New York City sucks anyway. It's not the place that it was before. So we could lose a city and we'll be fine. You know what? It might not even hit the United States. It might hit one of these useless countries like in Europe or Eastern Europe or some crap like that. So sorry, I don't mean, I'm just being edgy, guys. Don't take personal offense to any of that. Okay. So I don't know if there is some kind of doomsday thing, whatever. I'm keeping an open mind to everything. I didn't think that we would have plasma orbs that can teleport airplanes either, but here we are. We have it. Get over it. Okay. So, first of all, I want to go back to what I said before. I can't get over the fact that the MH370 videos have hit the mainstream. I love it. I love everything about it. I love that there's random CIA guys talking about it like it's 100% normalized. Like, I just love that because that's what we need. We need it to be normalized. Yes, Murray Minions, you are also my grandson. This is not a religion. Guys, this is not a religion. This has never been a religion. I'm not the Pope. This is just science. Okay? I love it. I also love that Candace Owens has beaten everybody to UFO disclosure. This would be like if somebody had the odds list of which podcaster is going to be the one that breaks UFO disclosure, Candace Owens wouldn't even be in the top 10. It would be like Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, Lex Friedman. These would be all the people that everybody would be expecting. People be like, Candace Owens, like, she's like not even on the list. Like, she doesn't even think we went to the moon. People be like, there's no chance that Candace Owens is going to be the UFO disclosure person. But it was Candace Owens all along. Candace Owens beat them all. All the rest of them were too afraid to talk about it, or the implications were too huge, or they're controlled by the CIA. I don't know what it is. How would you not want to talk to a guy that's like, hey, I've solved the biggest airline disappearance in all time. And by the way, there's 2 military videos that show the plane disappearing out of the sky by some UFOs. Oh, and by the way, I figured out that those UFOs are not really flying saucers, they're balls of plasma. What kind of podcaster doesn't want to talk to somebody like that? Shit, I want to talk to people like that. That's amazing. Anyway, Candace Owens beat everybody at UFO disclosure. And when I spoke to Candace Owens, she didn't even know who Jeremy Corbell or Lou Elizondo was. To me, that's just the most beautiful thing in the world. The fact that the podcaster breaking UFO disclosure doesn't even recognize the name Lou Elizondo, doesn't even recognize the name Jeremy Corbell. Funniest shit in the world to me. Because I've always expected that the UFO thing was never going to go down how people expected. Everybody in the UFO community had this fairy tale belief of how disclosure is going to happen. The aliens are going to come down. They're going to land on the White House lawn. They're going to introduce themselves to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to shit his pants. The aliens are going to hug Joe Biden. Joe Biden is going to sniff the aliens. Right? And then we would, everybody would stand up and there would be harmony in the world. Everyone would understand that we are just peasants in this giant world and we bow down to our alien overlords. And the alien overlords would have green and rainbow colored hair and they would respect everybody's pronouns. And that the aliens would give us solve all the problems. They would make the orange man go away. They literally think that all this crazy shit was going to happen. And like, this is how UFO disclosure was going to go down. And in the end, it didn't go down like that at all. In the end, all these people's UFO heroes, they're all frauds. They're all fucking liars. They're all just admitting the truth to protect national security. The other half of them are just like basically leeching off the teat of the people that are the CIA disinfo agents just so they can get a few extra bucks. So they can be a little celebrity in the UFO community. And they can go do a bunch of, they have these, like, conventions, like, every couple months where it's just all the same people giving the same speeches over and over and over and over and over again. If that was my life, just end me. Are you kidding me? So I love that none of those people got disclosure, that all of those people basically just turned out to be completely fraudulent. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be some random dude who's like, I'm in healthcare IT. That's me, by the way. I'm just in healthcare IT. I just saw some crazy videos and was like, oh, I'm just going to dig into these. And hey, it turns out, hey, here's all UFO disclosure on a silver platter. It's not the narratives they're selling us. It's just the truth. Oh, and Candace Owens never interviewed anybody related to UFOlogy. Literally never interviewed anybody. I asked her. I'm like, Candace, have you ever interviewed anybody in the UFO world, realm, or anything? And she like thought about it for a second. She's like, no, nobody. And I'm like, perfect. This is perfect. Like, this is how I want it to go down. Aliens aren't going to be what anybody expects. The UFO topic's not going to be what anybody expects. And the way it's going to go down is not going to be how anybody expects. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And I love that I get to just sit on my ass and watch people try to lie about the videos or wriggle, like watching Jeff Wise, like, have to address Ashton Forbes because he's getting so many questions about it, which is justified. People should be asking Jeff Wise, like, dude, there's this guy that you never talk about. And he's saying, like, we teleported this airplane. He's got this mountain of evidence. And I don't see you talking about any of this evidence. People should be asking Jeff Wise that. And it's making him have a psychological breakdown to the point where he's got to make a video about me. So, guys, to your point, if you think this is not impacting them, it is. It is. I'll share something with you guys that you're going to love right now. I was messaging Sal. We're talking about going on another podcast together. And one of the things that he told me is he's like, dude, the people here know who you are. And he's talking about like the Navy engineers, presumably, right? He's like, these people are like, oh, you know Ashton Forbes? Wow. Like it's like all inverted. Like you would expect them to be like, because they just hang out with Sal, like he's just like their coworker, right? And so they're like, oh, Ashton Forbes, you know the Ashton Forbes guy who's talking about all this science, blah, blah, blah. So Sal told me that. I don't know if he was lying, if he was just trying to bluster me up. I have a hard time believing that, but it could be true. It could be true. And this is relevant because it goes to show that when I was, one of the first things I asked Salvatore Pais is like, does he have permission to talk about this and to try to get a framework for what his current job is? A lot of people skip over that. Like this guy's an active Navy engineer. And he's not the only one. One of the first things he said was that whoever made those orbs is basically a ghost. Nobody's going to know who they are. And that's huge to think about that because he's like, it goes to show the level of compartmentalization that exists in this black world of engineers that are going on. Is that in a lot of these engineering cases, like they are working with magical technology, though the outside world has no chance. And they don't understand it at all. So to find somebody like me, who's just a normal guy who's explaining it, it must be refreshing. You just live in a world of lies, completely living in a whole world of lies where the outside world has no idea. And the people can come and watch this stream and they can, kick their shoes off, lay back. They can talk to somebody or pretend to talk, at least listen to somebody that understands what they're talking about, that doesn't think that they're an insane person or a pseudoscientist or whatever. Pretty wild. I think it's hilarious that they know me, though. But then the other point that was interesting, and I'm kind of just going off my memory here. We could be watching clips right now, but I was living it a couple days ago. So I've been thinking about the interview a lot. Because one of the things I said was, do you think that Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis are like gatekeepers on this? So one of the big takeaways that we had was Sal did not make the orbs, but he's holding something back related to it. I can't tell exactly what it is. Like he might know who did. And he kind of dodged a lot of questions about it. But it's clear that Sal highly respects Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. which is interesting because, his science overlaps with their science. And for some reason, Eric Davis was made some on the record statements poo-pooing Sal Pais's patents. Why would he do that? He's literally promoting your work. If you're Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff, Sal Pais is promoting your work. So I don't understand why they would make negative statements about it, especially knowing that Eric Davis is on bigot lists, part of some of these crash retrieval or whatever science projects they got going on that are classified. And he wrote a paper on teleportation. He wrote a paper on ball lightning. These guys know. And real quick, I want to go back to a previous point, but yes, imagine. So the point being, what I was saying earlier is that even if it seems like we're not making a lot of progress, that pressure that we're putting on the intelligence communities, the other experts, even the physics community, academic community, do not discount it. You may not feel it all the time, but they feel it. Imagine being the CIA and you've teleported MH370. Nobody in the world believes teleportation is possible. And now there's this guy on YouTube and he is just blowing up your spot. This guy's on YouTube. He's on X. He's going on all the podcasts. He's saying the CIA is 100% responsible for what happened to this plane. And your only play is to shut up. You can't say anything because you need to maintain plausible deniability. If you start making comments saying that we didn't do anything to this plane, now you can get proven being caught in a lie. Alternatively, if you don't say anything, you can't lie. I think this is exactly what's happening with them. So we are just cranking up the pressure to the point where the questions are being asked behind the scenes. They're just not being asked publicly yet. When they start getting asked publicly, that's when this whole thing starts to blow up. And that's why when what we saw with Candace Owens with her guest, Kevin Shipp, today is so huge, because somebody in his position to be openly talking about the MH370 videos, openly talking about the Freescale semiconductor engineers, openly talking about this science being real, this is a huge step to normalizing the videos and normalizing asking questions about them. So for the people that are questioning my motives and my actions and my strategy, let me say that I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing when I'm being abrasive. I know what I'm doing when I am cranking up the pressure on these people. I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush to prove the videos are real. We can take our time. We got no rush. They've been hiding this for decades. They've been hiding this missing plane for 10 years. We got all the time in the world. We just keep cranking that pressure up. More and more people come out, corroborating that we've got satellite video, corroborating this cold fusion, corroborating these balls of plasma that are, defying gravity. All this corroboration. It's drip, 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 right? And so if you are enjoying this, I want you to know I'm enjoying the shit out of this. There's no better position to be in than knowing that you're correct and just waiting for the corroborating evidence to come out. You can just sit back, have a sip of some apple juice. This is apple juice. And you can just sit back and you can just wait. And that's why I love when we see clips like we saw with Kevin Shipp. That's also why I love talking to Salvatore Pais, because I don't know how it's seen from your guys' perspective, but from my perspective, like we were talking on a level that was like above normal question level. Like I was trying to figure out, how long have we had this technology? How long have we had these orbs? Which papers has Sal Pais gotten his inspiration from? And I wanted to understand what his view was on 0-point energy. And I think I got a lot of good answers from it. So let's do a quick recap of what we understood. I do not play Smash Ultimate. I never played Smash Brothers. A little bit after my time. I'm a little bit older than that. We definitely have balls of plasma. Sal's talked about cold plasma. He probably went too far in his previous interviews talking about cold plasma, which clearly has a connection to cold fusion. He's even been asked about cold fusion before. I think that Sal perfectly agrees that we can achieve fusion and that temperature is not the key element. So earlier today, and I'm going to show this. This is actually just an hour or two ago. I made this post here specifically. Watch it. I just watched a rerun of myself taking a sip out of the bottle. Too funny, guys. Okay. Cold fusion is a scam, guys. Hot fusion is a scam. Cold fusion is not a scam. Here we go. Hot fusion is a scam. The reason that we have spent billions of dollars and never had any breakthroughs is because hot fusion is based on a flawed view of the universe. It assumes that space is empty. But space is not empty, and it's an energetic medium held in equilibrium. This changes the expected outcome in the fusion reaction. Cold fusion is the answer. Don't try to heat it up. Manipulate the medium in the region you want to make fusion happen. Create a negative pressure zone. This is so obvious that I can't believe that I'm the one who has to say this. Once I started looking at fusion in general and realized it just boils down to trying to make this plasma really hot, I went, why don't we just look at it from a different perspective? Instead of just trying to make the plasma really hot and then just assuming things are going to go faster, therefore they're going to interact more and like treating it like a highway, what if we just like force the highway to intersect? Like, what if we just force the roads to intersect as opposed to just like hoping things run into each other more often? It seems like the obvious answer is we should create a gravity well within a region of space, not worry about the temperature, but worry about the pressure. That seems like an obvious answer to me. End of the day, what we're going to find out is that cold fusion, which was called cold fusion by the detractors actually, is just looking at the same problem of fusion through a different lens. Don't look at it through temperature. Look at it through a pressure mechanism. Look at it through creating a permittivity change, a refraction change in any region you want of space-time. That's what we're doing. That's what we learned with the spy plane program with our plasma sheaths. And this is what Sal Pais figured out. What Sal Pais figured out was his Pais effect is the Schwinger limit. The Schwinger limit. That's the whole basis for his discovery. Is that he's saying there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling. We can't go above this ceiling. Once we get energy levels that are high enough, boom, we are looking at the nothingness. So the next thing I asked Sal after I dug into his history was I said, I need to show you the videos. I wanted to understand his perspective of the videos. And the first thing he told me I could not have expected. One of the letdowns we learned was that he didn't make the orbs. I believe Sal was not lying when he said he didn't make the orbs. But he was watching the drone video, specifically like, I'm going to give some context here without showing the whole thing here. Oh, I actually don't have it on here. He was showing the part where the orbs are spinning around the plane, right? This part here, spinning around the plane. And he said, I knew what was going to happen next. He said he knew. He knew they were using some non-radiation ionization. I didn't fully understand it. We're probably going to have to go back and watch that clip to understand it again. But he said he knew what was going to happen. Chat, that's a big tell. How could you know what's going to happen in this video? First time I watched this video, I had no fucking clue what was going to happen. I'm like, some orbs are spinning around the plane? Well, I don't know why that's happening. I mean, sure, if you ask me now, I would say, well, it's obvious they were preparing the plane to map the mass of the plane to determine how big the zap has to be to teleport the plane. That's what I would say now. If you asked me a year ago or a year and a half ago, I don't no fucking clue what's going on in this video. I had no clue why the orbs are converging. I would have no clue why there's this black zap that happens to the plane. Somehow Sal knew. The fact that Sal knew what was going to happen here is a major, major tell. That was probably the biggest revelation from the whole interview. He knew what was about to happen. To me, this means he's had to have seen something like this before. And he dodged the question. When I was asking him about if he's seen stuff like this before, I could tell right away that he was looking for a way to answer the question without, violating an NDA. Sal has probably seen something like this. He's seen some other video or experimental evidence that he knows what we're seeing there is real. He knows what we're seeing here is real because he's seen it firsthand himself. That was the impression that I got from him when he said that he knew what was going to happen in this video. It was hard to get him to admit that this is negative energy. And it was funny because I pushed on it. And he sort of admitted it was negative energy, but he said, I don't like to use that term negative energy because of the stigma associated with the term negative energy. He didn't even want to use it. And I kind of laughed at that. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, this is a guy that comes from academia and all he wants is to be recognized by MIT. The reason why Sal gets so upset is from when people call him pseudoscientist or whatever, is because he wants acceptance from academia. Because he knows the science is real. He knows how pivotal it is to all of physics. He's like, why am I not getting my accolades? And this reminds me of a clip by Stan Deo. I want to play this clip by Stan Deo for you guys. By the way, my chat's kind of messed up, so it's really hard for me to see your guys' comments. I apologize. This clip by Stan Deo. So it was Bob Grenier. And Bob Grenier was in our chat. More and more guys, truth be told, I thought that I didn't know what to think about Bob Grenier. I thought cold fusion was some nonsense. When I first started this, I was brainwashed like everybody else. I realized that, there's Bob Grenier right there. He's here right now. I'm talking about him. Talking about the man right now. Turns out cold fusion's the biggest aspect of this whole thing, of the whole videos. I often think about how Bob Grenier was at the Cosmic Summit talking about, even if the videos are fake, the science is real or whatever. I got newsflash for you. The science is real, but the videos are real too. Nobody is faking this video. It's incomprehensible to think that somebody would understand these heat signatures like this. I mean, the fact that we had to do so much reverse engineering to even understand what these heat signatures meant and find somebody like Bob Grenier that had to explain, oh, hey, that's a topological monopole. I didn't even know what any of those words meant. So that's the part where it's just impossible for those videos to be fake because it would require someone like Eric Davis to have made them. And Eric Davis didn't make those videos, which is what's just mind blowing. So, you know what? I might even just play the Bob Grenier clip. The OG Bob Greenyer clip, if the MH370 videos ever get proven to be real, Bob Greenyer is going to have like the best clip that will be on like all the major news stations where Bob Greenyer talks about it. In fact, let's play that before we play the Stan Deo thing, just because it's just that awesome. It's a little bit long. I'll skip ahead past some of it. The reason why some of these are long, guys, is that I did my own editing, and back in the day, like I wasn't great at it. So some of these clips are longer than others.
Saw the Jeremy Reese interview and realized that this was a video from 2014.
Legendary clip.
And with the context that I've just given you and what you see, and that knowing that this can cause things to disappear, and when they tend to do that disappearance, they go in a flash, I was compelled to do this. So for those that like to attack the project when they feel that we're going off subject, I'm sorry.
You know what's great about this disclaimer is that you can tell Bob Greenyer doesn't want to put his neck out there, right? This is a guy that they've had to rebrand cold fusion into low energy nuclear reactions because of all the stigma that they got. So for someone like this to be like, man, I have to comment about these videos, it's just like, it's too clear. That was the most mind-blowing part for someone like me who knew nothing about low energy nuclear reactions. Like, why is this guy like issuing this statement? Like, I knew that people were gonna like treat the MH370 videos as radioactive just because of the huge implications associated to them. But Bob Greenyer's putting his neck out there and going, hey, you know what? I understand that people are going to try to use this against me. If these videos end up being fake, I understand that people are going to try to use this against me, but I got to make a video about this because it's too crazy. It's too on the nose.
But I believe that this is fully on subject. And I think that at some point we've got to address ways in which this technology has been used, because we need to wake up to its possibility. If it turns out to be fake, well, it's a pretty well-informed fake, is all I can say. And I didn't go back in time and force them to make this video with what we know now. This would kind of imply that these are warmer than the environment. And for that to happen, one might expect that if they didn't have their own energy source, they must be extracting the energy from the environment. That the exotic vacuum objects will fire a thing, or it has some sort of projected field out in front of it that will cause other exotic vacuum objects to orbit around them. So there is something that goes out in front. I believe that this is the toroidal moment, the beam that goes out far faster in front of it. And that, along with the, let's say, the Ukon of Asara, this part of the fractal toroidal structure, this part here, this changes epsilon 0 of the physical vacuum, and it has like a beam that comes out in front of it, and that enables all of the funky magic that these things can do. Often we are seeing, and maybe, I don't know if I can zoom in, I can't zoom in, we are seeing the non-radiating boundary, and you can go and look at this video itself, but inside that there is a much smaller thing, and it does tend to be offset. It does tend to be offset, and that would be consistent with the toroidal structure in the center and the kind of mushroom that it creates with the material as it goes around orbiting the fractal toroidal structure in the center of the exotic vacuum object. Look, here we go. We have our non-radiating boundary, okay? And we have this little tuft of thing at the top, right? Now, I'm going to go back to the monopole in this presentation. And we have shown that our work is actually more accurate than this. So if you can imagine this here, this is where the material is pushed through, but then it hits the top of the non-radiating boundary and is fed back into the coherent.
So, Bob Greenyer, the only things we don't differ on too much, which is fine. I'm glad we can still differ, even though there's so much evidence for what we're seeing here, is that Bob Greenyer thinks it's possible there may be like satellites or something that are directing the orbs. Certainly possible. I believe there's something mechanical inside the orb that's shooting a laser from inside the orb outward. I can't prove that, obviously. Also, something interesting to point out here is that when you look at the fusion experiments that are done, a lot of them you see 2 Ukana-Visaras, one on either side. But in our video, we're only seeing 1, which to me, actually, I think adds to the authenticity of it. They're using the same principle, but they're using a different form of it. I think that they're not creating a full warp drive all around them. I think they're only contracting the space in front of them without expanding the space behind them. And I think that that's how they're able to move. I think that they realize they don't need a 2-way mechanism. They can do it with just a 1-way mechanism. But that's just my belief from looking at these videos. We would only be able to tell with the engineer who made these orbs. I also want to point out here, while we're halfway through this video, that this is the biggest difference between the UFO disclosure advocates that were testifying on Congress, is that they get asked about the nature of the technology and they say it's aliens. When I asked Dave Rossi and Sal Pais about the technology, they say it's humans. That's the biggest difference. And we're dealing with a former rear admiral and a literal counterintelligence agent in Lou Elizondo and Tim Gallaudet versus 2 engineers, one that is a defense contractor, third-party defense contractor, and the other one that is a literal active Navy engineer that has also supposedly worked with Air Force and Space Force. So I look at that and I go, who should I listen to? Should I listen to the counter intel guy and the rear admiral that's never been read in? Or should I listen to the literal engineers, one of which has 5 patents for UFO technology and another one who's connected to a lot of these top other engineers that are out there? I'm going to listen to the engineers. The engineers are sitting there telling me this is human technology. Now, they're not ruling out that we didn't get it from aliens or something else. They're just saying that, like, we've figured this out. And the biggest thing was when Sal says, he says Einstein's equations go back to 1815 or 1915. That's over 100 years ago. Thank you for promoting the new narratives. The new narratives are Ashton is an alien or Ashton is a CIA operative. The old narratives are done. They're tired. We need new narratives. But if Sal noticed that there is exponential growth in energy in Maxwell's equations, then Sal's whole point was other people must have seen this as well. They must have realized this. Once you realize there's an exponential growth in the energy levels, in the angular frequency, this is how Sal realized if you increase the vibrational frequency or the spin, then you are increasing the energy level exponentially. He says, other people must have figured this out. These equations have been out there since general relativity in 1915. How have people not figured it out? This is why Sal is saying it's human technology. Because he's going, we've had plenty of time to figure it out. So for the people that are like, oh, well, what about the Foo Fighters in 1920s? Even that can be explained in this timeline. Even that. We could argue that the Nazis were ahead of us and that they were working on this UFO technology. And that the whole reason for Operation Paperclip is we wanted to steal those scientists that were working on this UFO technology. We could argue that as well. If you argue, oh, what about the paintings in the pyramids or whatever, right? There's paintings, old paintings. It's not really the strongest evidence. Plus, hey, again, aliens can be real. They still can be real. What we're focused on is the modern era and what do we have access to today. And what I hear when I talk to my sources, my whistleblowers, like Sal, is that we've got this technology. And it can be a bit of both, to be in Foolish's point. It can be a bit of both. Absolutely. This is why I said at the beginning of this live stream, aliens are a psyop, but it doesn't mean aliens aren't real. That's the beauty of this psyop. The best psyops have an element of truth to them. They can then focus, again, it's all about plausible deniability. Like, what's the best lie? The best lie is aliens are out there. And you go, okay, what's the energy source? And they go, we can't talk about that. That's a lie. Now you're lying. If you're holding back information, you're lying. It's called a lie by omission. And then if anybody ever catches them out on it, they go, well, we didn't lie about it. We just said we couldn't talk about it. Oh, you were hiding free energy the whole time? Yeah, we didn't lie about it. It was national security issue. We didn't lie about it. We couldn't talk about it. That's what they're going to say. It's literally what they're going to say. They were hiding free energy because of the national security issue. They can talk about aliens all day long. They can go, yeah, aliens are here. Sure. They're not technically lying. Maybe there are aliens visiting us. But they are omitting a very crucial truth, that those aliens were using 0 point energy to teleport to us from the fucking Andromeda galaxy. They didn't come from Alpha Centauri. They can come from anywhere in the universe. Shit, they can come from the farthest points in the universe for all we know. So, okay. What questions do we have? Let's do a quick intermission here. Yeah, I think that it's bigger, though, than just profit. So let me play this other clip from the redacted interview. I don't think that we've had a live stream since this. So this clip comes from Clayton Morris and Redacted. This is another really, really important clip.
Hearing, of course, the other day. And we're past the point. Yes, aliens exist, whatever. We have reverse engineered their craft. We have these materials. We know this now. That's on the congressional record. We have this stuff. Like, let's move the conversation beyond that. I want to ask you about 0 point energy and these technologies that I think this government has in their possession. I think it's verifiable that instantaneous travel. I think it's one of the greatest cover-ups in human history that we don't have access to this technology.
Guys, I'm not gay, but I have the biggest man crush on Clayton Morris right now, just for asking that question. Just the fact that Clayton Morris had the giant brass balls to come out and say, I want to talk about 0 point energy. I think the fact that we have instantaneous transmission being hidden is like the biggest cover-up ever. Wow. Guys, that tells me that like we are making an impact. We are changing people's minds. Like we're actually changing people's minds. No, I'm not openly gay, I'm just closeted. We're actually like changing narratives here, guys. So you guys in MH370X, you should be proud, because I've seen now when I see people talking about what question should I ask so-and-so, it's like all 0 point energy. I see UFO stuff and people are going, what about 0 point energy? Because people realize 0 point energy will change our lives. Everybody has a stake in 0 point energy. Whether or not aliens exist, some people care. A lot of people don't give a shit. Everybody cares about free energy. So absolutely amazing. And I just realized that we stopped halfway in the Bob Greenier video. So let's go back to that first. So let's finish the Bob Greenier video.
Okay. Here, this is very, very clear. This is almost exactly looking like the Aalto University peer-reviewed published structure. So the monopole would be at this point. The toroidal moment would be going out this way, and you can see the dark area in front, so it's cohering energy from here, okay? So this is traveling in this direction, and it's cohering energy from in front of it, and that comes into what I call the Borg. Yeah, it becomes part of the collective. There, this is very, very clear, okay? So the monopole's location is here. This is the non-radiating boundary, okay? This is the phase inversion. The dark area above will be where it's cohering energy, and you will have the disruption beam coming in to the monopole at the bottom here. So when I saw this video, it was like, well, to fake this one, back in 2014 showed incredible understanding of technology that no one had an understanding outside of the black world, even if there was anyone that had an understanding in the black world. To fake this one and have the thermal imaging correctly representing and the non-radiating boundary and everything is beyond imagining.
So that's the big takeaway right there. Is the satellite video, I mean, there's nothing like this satellite video anywhere on the internet, like, or in any movies or anything. There's nothing like this. So it's already pretty unimaginable to even think that someone could create it, but it's not, you could come up with some plausible explanation for why someone could have magically known how to create a satellite video, right? Until, of course, a week or two ago, where we learned the military really does have satellite video of UFOs. And we were confirmed that we have this capability. The drone video on the left, that's the one where nobody could have come up with it. There just is no plausible explanation for how anybody could have known that we've got these drones with thermal cameras on them that have the cameras underneath the wings, that we've got this dark line in front of the orbs pulling the orbs forward. The heat signature in the orb, the fact that the orbs converge together at the last second, and then the fact that the zap itself is black, a cold black event. Nobody could have come up with that. In fact, nobody ever has come up with that. I was watching a TV show. In fact, I was watching Foundation, the TV show on Apple, where they have these jump drive capability. And the jump drive doesn't look anything like this either. Even science fiction TV shows have no fucking clue how the physics works, which is why none of them are physically accurate. These videos are physically accurate. Again, accurate to physics, as papers that already predated them existed. So this is the part that makes the videos extremely compelling. Nobody could have faked that video on the left. In fact, nobody's come even remotely close to trying to recreate it either.
Yeah, if that doesn't tell you you've got your Ukon of Asara there, I don't know what will, right? It looks like this, okay? That is the bit that changes epsilon 0, okay? The permittivity of the vacuum, okay? And it's pulling it in here. It's correctly facing forward as it is at the moment. And so what you would want to do is you would want to bring these in, get them into their alignment, get them tracking the device accurately, get them equidistant, and then what you would do is you would rotate their orientation so their toroidal moments link up and make a super tor that would then have its azimuth going through the center of the craft that you are.
I don't know if Bob's in the chat still. Did Bob know when he made this video that the orbs actually reorient? I don't know if he knew that. The orbs actually reorient in this video right before they converge, just like Bob Greenier's talking about. Because if he didn't know that, then he was speculating as to real physics that we were able to show actually exists in the videos. I think I have the clip for their orientation. Let me just see if I have it. MH370 videos orientation. It might be one of my ones that I have stuck somewhere, but even if I just show you, actually, I'll just show you the videos that I just made here. Even in this Zap video, if you watch the orbs closely, they slow down right there. I don't know if you saw them slow down right here. Once they get to this cloud, the orbs slow down a slight bit. Right here, they slow down right there. It's only like 2 seconds before they zap. All of a sudden, the orbs slow down a slight bit. I don't know what percentage. I would guess they slow down by like 20%. And this is important because when you look at the other video, you can actually see when they're reorienting like that. Again, there's so many small details. None of this could be faked. Watch the orbs blur right here. Watch that orb. Blurs right here. It's blurring. You can see them blurred right here. This is the same moment the orbs are reorienting where they slow down in the other video. What a crazy detail that is. So when Bob's talking about you would have all the orbs basically focus their gravity beam towards the center of the plane, that's exactly what they're preparing to do right there. And when they jump out of this, less than a fraction of a second later, they immediately collapse. Look at this. They jump out of the where they're blurred. They're not blurred, immediately collapse on the plane, immediately teleport. Poof. So was Bob Greenyer just seeing the future?
Disappear or teleport. If you reduce the overall diameter of the Tor -1, the field strength in both in the Tor -1 and through the azimuth goes up exponentially, and this is already experimentally proven. If we generally get accepted that this is technologically possible, we have the most incredible future ahead of us. Just the most incredible future. At this point, they seem to be tumbling.
I just love that part where Bob says the most incredible future, because it's so true. Is that we have the most incredible future ahead of us. Like, this is probably even beyond what a low energy nuclear reaction engineer would have ever hoped for. Is that, like, this is a Boeing 777. This plane is gigantic. And we're seeing these quantum effects at a scale that is huge. The reason why these videos are so big is that that plane is gigantic. There's over 200 people on that plane, and it's being zapped out of the sky like it's a little insect. This goes to show what Bob Greenyer always talks about, which is that this stuff is scale invariant, which is to say it doesn't matter how big you make it. The physics holds up at any scale. As long as you're getting these quantum effects, you can make it as big as you want. You might as well say these are just giant electrons floating around the plane.
The monopoles. So it's not going forward. It's starting to rotate itself. And, okay, do they align? Do they start to get into alignment? Because what you want is the monopoles to have their own azimuth to produce a ring to create another Tor above, and then you pull these in, and that creates the unification of the forces at phase singularity of the -1 Tor.
It's crazy. Bob's just casually like, yeah, you'd want the orbs to converge on the plane because it's going to create a phase singularity. And what he's saying there is that the energy level within that compact region is going to achieve a point where it hits a singularity, where the energy level increases exponentially to this point where you hit the ceiling, the thing that Salvatore Pais has been talking about, the Schwinger limit. You're going to hit this limit. Now you rip through the fabric of reality. Man, it's just crazy to listen to Bob talking about
this. They're pulling in at that point, right? That's exactly what you want. Right before. So they're rotating and pulling in. Okay? That is exactly what you would need to do, and boom. It disappears. And it goes in a flash.
It was all about plasma orbs the entire time. It's been all about exotic vacuum objects the entire time. I tried to get Sal to admit that it was the Coulomb force. Let me take my quarters I got here. When the orbs are coming together, I tried to get him to admit it's the Coulomb force that's causing the exponential rise in the energy level. I kind of got a roundabout answer to it because I pointed out that in his experiments that they did, they only got this tiny, tiny force, 10 to the -8. That's a 0.0 with 8 zeros. That's very small, and we need 1 Coulomb. So we needed something with 10 to the 8. We needed a much, much bigger number. But Sal wasn't disturbed by it at all. But what this tells us is that our conventional material science cannot achieve these energy levels without plasma. We must have plasma to pull it off. Is that there's this property of plasma where this ball of energy has electrons that have broken free when they should normally neutralize, and they're in some kind of whirlpool situation where they're not neutralizing. And what this is doing is it's creating a permanent dipole. It's creating a battery that never runs out. At some point, this is the part where we still haven't figured out. Somebody figured out, take two of them, jam them together. And now you're going to create an electromagnetic flux that will break through the Schwinger limit. So maybe one of them has a high amount of energy, but it's not breaking through the Schwinger limit. Converge multiple together, now you break through that Schwinger limit. I tried to get Sal to admit it. Didn't really get the answer that I wanted, but this is the thing, too, where I knew I was broaching on national security with some of this. Just because, like, the energy is the national security issue. I totally understand it. But until the government comes and talks to me, we're just going to keep exposing it. Okay. Let's go back to the Tucker Carlson interview. I love Tucker Carlson's takes. This doesn't mean that I agree with everything that he says. In fact, I think Tucker Carlson's in the dark. He's in the dark on this. I think that Tucker Carlson is, and yes, it's all about energy density. How dense is the energy in your region of space-time? Absolutely. I think that Tucker Carlson is being guided by people that are in the controlled disclosure movement, like Gary Nolan. I know for a fact he's being guided by Gary Nolan because he name drops Gary Nolan on his Joe Rogan interview. So this is already a major red flag for me. Because I've interacted with Gary Nolan. My opinion of Gary Nolan is he doesn't really know shit about the science. He's like a, parapsychologist or a psychologist or whatever. He's more about how the brain operates in consciousness. He's not about the hard physics. Simple as that. Truth be told, I don't really respect Gary Nolan that much either, to be honest with you guys. I know a lot of people in the UFO community like him, what have you. He's got a weird personality. He's clearly, he's hard left with all the other hard left UFO people. And he's not the guy I want to be advising Tucker Carlson. Unless their names are Eric Davis or Hal Puthoff, I don't really want any of these other people advising Tucker Carlson on what he should be thinking about the UFO phenomenon. That's just my true opinion, guys. Take it or leave it. I know some people won't agree with it. That's fine. But Tucker Carlson, though, understands the nuance. He understands the nuance. He knows there's something big going down with this UFO topic. I think he's been led down this road of it's this spiritual, demonic, extra-dimensional thing going on. And you know what? Might not even be wrong. Especially if it's all about plasma. I think that you can interpret these balls of plasma in a lot of different forms, including angelic or demonic or what have you, or extra-dimensional. That's not how I choose to look at them, but everybody can look at it however they want. So let's listen to what Tucker Carlson has to say about this.
Technology. Are you hopeful?
I'm going to start
back this hearing, of course, the other day.
Because nothing makes me happier than listening to people talk about 0-point energy and talking about teleportation openly. And here is, let's skip ahead where his eyes are open.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not opening his eyes. But here is Clayton Morris talking to Tucker Carlson, one of the most influential people on the planet. He has a lot of influence with Donald Trump, talking about 0-point energy.
And we're past the point. Yes, aliens exist, whatever. We have reverse engineered their craft. We have these materials. We know this now. That's on the congressional record. We have this stuff. Like, let's move the conversation beyond that. I want to ask you about 0-point energy and these technologies that I think this government has in their possession. I think it's verifiable that instantaneous travel. I think it's one of the greatest cover-ups in human history that we don't have access to this technology. Are you hopeful at all that these members of Congress, Nancy Mace and others, are going to be able to, Timber Shed and others are going to be able to pull this out of these deep programs and release it? Like, when you're in the smoky filled rooms, what are you hearing about this?
Well, no, I'm not at all hopeful. Hopeful. I'm not at all confident. one of the members, I don't want to betray secrets, but one of the, and I think this is correct, the members of Congress you just mentioned, I won't say which, pushed hard on the UAP Disclosure Act of 2022, which has never kind of been enacted. And as a result was primaried by his own party, which is, the kind of maximum punishment in electoral politics. So there is a massive, we cannot overstate the effort in place to prevent disclosure. And the question really is why? And so, yeah, these technologies clearly exist. It's not clear to me who possesses them. I'm pretty sure no one's profiting off of them. So, you can construct all kinds of explanations for why. But, everyone I've known, which is every president who's been really read into this stuff, is unwilling to disclose what he learned. And you have to ask, why is that? So I think the truth is, and I haven't gotten to the truth, but I've gotten close enough that I'm like, ooh. I think it's very, very disruptive, way disruptive. It's not just that Lockheed is making a lot of money on anti-gravity technology, or, we've been visited by people from their planet or whatever. I mean, I think there's more there. I mean, there is more there. So, and I'm not, exactly sure. I'm not going to speculate, but I think it's a big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than we often allow for it being.
That is a huge clip, guys. That clip to me is massive. Why? Because Tucker Carlson has influence. And he's saying, I've spoken to presidents who've been read in, and they're not willing to talk about it. And he's saying, this must be something that is a big deal. It must be very disruptive. And he's going, this is not just aliens. Aliens are not that disruptive. And I know a lot of my alien lovers out there are going to go, Ashton, you're discounting aliens. Aliens mean everything. It means what's our position in the universe, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's psychological. It's religious in its impact. But free energy for the world, that hits people in a way that's profound, because it means that we're living a lie, that every aspect of our life is a lie. And we've been absorbing lies and believing lies from people that we've been trusting to teach us. And they've been teaching us lies for decades. That's what's so disruptive. The disruptive part is, remember, the CIA, it's all about this concept of plausible deniability. What does the CIA care about the most? They care about not getting the government to blame, not getting the government blamed for their actions. That's what they care about the most. What does the government care about the most when it comes to a cover-up? It's not aliens existing. It's that they've been lying to people, and that this will destroy all faith anyone ever had in the government forever. I know a lot of you say, I don't have any faith in the government. Well, okay. For you, it doesn't impact you. There's a lot of people out there that trust the government implicitly. And those people will never trust the government ever again. That's what they care about more than anything else. That's why they can never admit the truth. So let's hit a couple questions, guys, and then we'll watch a couple clips of Salvatore Pais, and then we will call it a night. Space Force. Why did they start Space Force? Why did oh yeah, we were going to look at the Stan Deo video as well, so maybe I'll pull that up while I'm doing this. Why exactly did Donald Trump start Space Force to begin with? Everybody just kind of dismissed it. They just thought, well, it's just Space Force, it's just Donald Trump doing Donald Trump things. But what if there was a bigger reason? What if they started Space Force because we have technology that's beyond the paradigm, that we're quite literally using space as a battlefield? And we're fighting on the battlefield of outer space right now. And we're fighting on the battlefield of space-time, 6th generational warfare. To me, Space Force is not an accident. Space Force wasn't just created for no reason. Space Force was created because we have technology that is beyond what the public understands to be possible. And we have to map everything we see in outer space all the time. Stanley Meyer, my opinion on Stanley Meyer is that he figured it out. Now, when I heard about water power cars, I just thought this was some absurd nonsense. When you realize that when they're really talking about water power cars, they're talking about taking water and having the molecular bonds of hydrogen and oxygen just collapse and it break apart. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about using negative energy to cause that to happen at very low energy levels, at low temperatures, and then using that hydrogen and oxygen as a fuel source for your engine. Wow. Wow. There's a direct connection to cold fusion to Stanley Meyer. I would never expected that. Never expected that. Okay, one of the big things I actually want to mention as well is that this is an answer to what Tucker Carlson mentioned. Now, I didn't clip this, but Tucker Carlson, after that clip, mentions, like, well, why are these UFOs crashing? This is one of the big narratives I hear out there. If these UFOs have this super advanced technology, why are they crashing? Shouldn't they just be like invincible or whatever? There's not a fallacy for it yet, but what would probably be called the alien fallacy, which is this idea that just because you have this advanced technology, this concept that you must be invincible. No, even Superman had a weakness. It was called kryptonite. Everything has a weakness. Physics generally isn't a situation where you're just perfectly invincible. In some cases, it's just a matter of finding out what that weakness is and then exploiting it. In the case of UFOs that are using scalar physics or some type of gravity manipulation, then you understand that scalar physics is a matter of shooting an electromagnetic wave longitudinally through the ether so that there is no electromagnetic wave that is visible in our three-dimensional space, but that you can cause there to be a potential that transmits invisibly to a distant location. If we can do that, then we can mess up their navigation system. We can mess up their capability to surf on gravity, because that's what UFOs are doing. They're field propulsion mechanisms that are surfing on gravity. That's what the UFO is doing. So it turns out they have a major vulnerability, which is if you mess up their gravity waves that they're surfing on, they're going to collapse. They're going to crash. They're going to fall to the ground. This is the thing that people need to understand the most. Just because gravity manipulation is real does not make them invincible. In fact, it means now they have a new weakness. They have a new weakness. They might not be vulnerable to missiles, but they could be vulnerable to a simple scalar wave, an electromagnetic potential with zero electromagnetic actual wave that you can measure, a zero transverse wave, a longitudinal wave that we beam through the medium. They could be weak to that. Phase conjugation, exactly. Exactly, guys. So for the people that are new, what is phase conjugation? You have two waves, 180 degrees out of phase, meaning they're aimed at each other, and they perfectly cancel each other out, so that if you were to add up the summations of their waves, nothing is left over. This would mean that if I use a detector, I'm not going to detect any electromagnetic wave. However, they're still shooting a potential through the medium. Why? Because space is not empty. So it all comes back to space not being empty. Okay. Let's watch a couple clips with Sal Pais, and then we'll call it a night, guys. Thank you guys for being here with me tonight. I appreciate you guys. You've been off the chain. And if you guys were in Vetted's live stream earlier today, I was in there for a few minutes following the alien invasion, which obviously did not pan out. One thing you'll note is there's a lot of people online that pretend like they have all the answers, and they don't. That's just the truth of the reality. The only way that we can get to the truth is that we follow the science and we educate ourselves as to what is possible, and then we can look at evidence through a clear lens and not a tinted one that we've been led through with the media. Okay. Where do I go to watch this? Oh, okay. So we're going to watch this clip first. Stan Deo clip, guys. I don't really know all the history of Standeo, so if you've got a lot of strong opinions, well, whatever. I don't care. So this is a clip that Bob Grenier posted on Standeo. Standeo is like a whistleblower or something with, I don't know, Lockheed or somebody like that. I've watched enough of him to be pretty confident he's not a scammer or a grifter. He believes what he's saying is real. And a lot of what he's saying has a lot of connections to stuff that we've been looking into.
Kept a very low profile for 7 months. But I continued to do my research, and I wrote Dr. Maxfield a letter, and that was perhaps my mistake. I said, look, I've done it. I've figured out the wave equation that we were looking for. And again, in my ignorance, I didn't realize how much work had already been done and gone before me. I was just kind of on the periphery or the edge of this whole development.
That's a device to be able to make things like flying saucers fly, is it?
Yes. Also, it's a device to store energy in the form of motion, like of a small star or a big atom. It's called, this is a long word, an MHD plasma, magnetohydrodynamic plasma, like ball lightning, and it contains itself. But it's a way to turn all sorts of electricity into a high voltage battery. Now, this would have been an immediate solution for the Middle East oil blockade at that time. Now, I wrote the letter in good faith, trying to say, look, we can stop the threat of war in the Middle East by using this as an alternate energy source. It's very portable, it's non-polluting. It had some byproduct radiation problems, but things we could solve. It would be cleaner than fission or fusion. Now, that's when people here in this country, at the Aeronautical Research Labs, politicians started to get a hold of me. ASIO contacted me. Good grief. An ad infinitum chain of intelligence people, including 2 CIA people from the States. And then the FBI eventually started looking for me in this country, and that again was after the intelligence war over there, after Hoover died. And I was unable to finish my research in this country. In fact, I met many dead ends in government departments and research facilities where they told me privately, like Dr. Tom Keeble in the Aeronautical Research Labs. He told me, yes, we know about the flying saucers your countrymen have built, and in England and in Canada. And in fact, we have film records of them here in the RAAF files. I said,
I want to stop you there.
Yeah.
Are you saying, Stan, that there are such things as, let's call them flying saucers, but they are built on Earth?
Yes. That doesn't mean that I rule out the possibility of other flying devices or intelligent beings visiting the planet, either from the oceanic bottoms or deeper areas, or from other areas in space. But I am positive that we have the technology, I can even name you the companies and people involved, in making high-speed electric aircraft that do look, strange enough, like a saucer.
Well, chat. Wow. So Standeo, and here's the Discord invite for anyone who wants it. Basically just saying, yeah, we have the capability to make stuff that looks like a flying saucer. We have electrogravitic craft that are out there that nobody realizes. The interview is 1977. This is another one of those reasons where, like, these people just assumed the public was going to figure it out. They're like, the public's got to figure this out. All these people are figuring it out. 1977. And yes, Standeo, he starts talking about fusion and talking about this idea that we've got this energy source that's out there. It's an unlimited energy supply. Never runs out. Keep in mind, in the 70s, we didn't even have solar power or wind power yet, let alone straight up 0-point energy and free energy. The thing that blows my mind when I watch this is it starts to put into perspective the entire human civilization. Is that you look at it and you go, wow, this guy was talking about MHD plasma, magnetohydrodynamic plasma. They're talking about manipulating plasma through fluid dynamics of magnetism. That's what this all boils down to. When we talk about magnetic monopoles, we're talking about a magnetic field that's spherical in nature, that's containing the plasma within it. Standeo is talking about using plasma as an unlimited battery in 1977. 1977, before we even had conventional solar, commercial solar power, commercial wind power. Hell, commercial solar and wind power are like a product of the late 90s and early 2000s. This is 30 years before that. So Byfield Brown, almost certainly it was 100% correct. Turns out everything's electrostatic. We didn't understand the electrostatic nature of the universe because we didn't understand zero-point energy. We didn't understand quantum mechanics. And that's why we discounted Byfield Brown effect. Because we thought we were working in an empty vacuum when in reality, we're working in a medium. We're working in a medium. Absolute Yahtzee, guys. Yeah, a lot of people ask about Nassim Haramein as well, and I think he's absolutely correct. He's correct. A lot of people have figured it out. One of the other points that I was going to make that I think Salvatore Pais brings up, as well as Stan Deo, I think brought it up in that video, is that these people realize one of the first things they realize after they figure it out is they're not the first person to figure it out. This is the same thing that happened to me. You realize, oh, wow, the ether is real. All this stuff is real. And you're like, oh, shit. I'm not even the first person to figure this out. It's kind of like the Rick and Morty joke, which is like you figure out portal travel to travel to other universes, and then you realize you're the last person to figure out portal travel. Same concept. Is you figure out all this stuff is real, and then you realize, oh, shit, all these other people already figured this out before. Same thing that I was going to bring up with Sal is that, like, Sal, he even says, like, these inventions are original ideas, but none of the work related to the foundations of these inventions is original. He's saying that other people have already figured all this stuff out. I just turned it into a patent. And that's what I'm saying is that, like, people ask me, what are you doing, Ashton? I said, well, I'm the influencer. I'm the person who's bringing it to the forefront, shining a light on it, trying to explain how it works in practical sense where people can understand it. Because without that, we're never going to get this out there. There's people who have been talking about it since the 70s. And they've all assumed that it's right around the corner, that pretty soon the whole public's going to come to terms with the zero-point energy being real. Turns out it never happens. The brainwashing is more powerful than what people expected, guys. Much, much more powerful. Let's look at a couple other real quick clips. These other clips are much shorter.
Yeah, we have.
I like this Stan Deo guy, by the way, though, guys. I like this Stan Deo guy. Let's watch these clips.
Theory now, but I don't think any practical devices that would allow us to go faster than the speed of light and traverse many light years of distance in a very, very short time, using the same technique that we used to break the sound barrier, where we warp the shock wave. We have theory now, but I don't think any practical devices that would.
Okay, so that's amazing because he's talking about breaking the light barrier. He's like, we can break the light barrier the same way we break the sound barrier. And this is something that always bugged me because I always assumed there must be a way.
Smoke rings at targets long on top.
There must be a way to break the light barrier. Turns out there is a way to break the light barrier. You change the permittivity of a region of space-time and you're changing the speed of light. You're creating a light barrier.
On tops of the decks of ships that shoot smoke rings or charged particle rings like smoke rings at targets long distances away and strike them with enough force to electrocute or burn the target.
Guys, smoke rings. Smoke rings have a secret to them. Why are the smoke rings toroidal in shape? Because this donut shape is a naturally self-organizing shape that happens from the universe, from the rules of the universe. Turns out smoke rings are a much more important thing than what we thought. Stan Deo, a really interesting guy. Whoever, I can just tell from listening to this guy knows what he's talking about.
Depending upon what frequencies are used on tops of the decks.
So my guess is we'll find out that he's got some crazy beliefs, because every time I'm like all in on somebody, it turns out the next thing I know, they've got some super crazy conspiratorial beliefs or what have you, which again, this is what happens with a lot of these people, where they realize magic is possible. They realize major conspiracies are possible. Next thing you know, they're seeing them everywhere.
A way to use this process to control minds at a distance of 10 to 15 miles from a central transmitter, where people aren't even aware of it during their sleep. Somewhat like post-hypnotic suggestion. This, in the wrong hands, is not a good tool. A way to use this process.
So there it is. Now we're talking about mind control, right? Where we were doing so good. We were talking about faster than light travel, what have you. And the next thing you know, you start talking about mind control. And now everybody's calling you a conspiracy theorist. And now nobody's listening out to what you have to say. Mind control could be real. Who knows, guys? I tell you guys repeatedly, like, once you've learned that teleportation is real, you can't rule anything else out. Can't rule anything else out. Okay, questions on the Sal Pais interview. I'm going to go take a quick look. We're going to pull it up. I just want to listen to the first part. Somebody asked a question about vectoring. They said, what is 256 comments? Guys, what the hell? Let me pull it up. They asked about vectoring. They said, how is this plane vectoring? Actually, this is a lot of views on the interview. 15,000 views, guys. So thank you guys for watching this. I am going to make a few clips from it as well. How are these orbs vectoring? I did not expect. Sal told me right before the interview, he said, I'm going to tell you something that I have not mentioned on any interviews yet. I want to talk about how the orbs are moving. I went, okay, sure. Also, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Exposing Bar Secrets. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I do think that, guys, again, this is a long game that we're in. It could take years. I don't know how long it could take. Could take decades. I hope it doesn't. I want to live to get to the truth. But we know that these videos are real. We know the science is real, and we're gonna expose it slowly but surely. Yeah, Ash has more views than CNN. Sad but true, chat. Okay, so he said that he knew how the orbs moved, and he wanted to spend like 5 minutes at the beginning talking about it. I think he spent about 2.5 or 3 minutes. I want to listen to what he said again because I did not fully understand what he was talking about the orbs moving. So before I do that, let me show you this clip of the orbs moving. They've got this weird movement to them where they're like vectoring in 3 dimensions, but they're also in perfect synchronization. I don't think we have a word in English for this at the moment, other than resonance. What we're doing here, it looks so unnatural, but at the same time, it also looks very computer-oriented, like a computer is controlling these orbs. Let's hear what Sal has to say about this. I think that he's talking about basically AI and supercomputers, which I think was another reason why he was super excited to talk to me, is that he was looking at this and he knows more about our capabilities, our classified capabilities, than most people probably do. Okay, he also mentioned this idea of creating a non-ionized radiation. Chat, I don't even know what this means. I know that an ionization is pulling the electrons or adding the electrons to a molecule. But yeah, this went over my head. So we've got a little bit to learn still, guys. We still got more to learn. The beauty is we'll probably be learning until the day that we die. So that'll probably never run out. Okay. Here's Ashton on a Sunday looking, not my greatest. So got a couple of bags under my eyes in this video. Okay, let's get to the good part right away.
Government is absolutely, just from a unit's point of view. But that also applies to the physics. If you apply the chain rule to that T, say, equals a constant that has no dimensions, divided by, say, frequency of spin. I prefer frequency of vibration because you can vibrate much higher, as you and I shall discuss eventually. We're not going to give numbers, but anyway. So again, T.
So vibration can go much higher than spin. That's what he's just saying right there. Very interesting. Vibration can go much higher than spin. So he's saying there might be a limit to how much you can spin an electron, but vibrating it, maybe we can achieve higher frequencies and therefore higher energy levels. Very interesting. Don't think in terms of decades, fam. Think in terms of the next 4 years. Yeah, there's a chance, non-zero chance that we get some disclosure, out of Trump, out of this current administration. RFK wants to get rid of the CIA's ability to perform evil shit, which maybe it involves them telling the truth about MH370. We'll see. Okay, let's keep going.
Equals a constant, dimensionless constant, divided by a frequency, say, of vibration. If you apply the chain rule, we're talking about first year college, differential calculus, all right? Chain rule. If you apply the chain rule to this relationship, you're going to get something that basically says minus delta t, t being time, is on the order of delta frequency, say delta omega, divided by omega square. It's that freaking simple. That minus delta t talks, you can say, to a reverse temporal excursion, if you want to go that way, or if you consider the Minkowski spacetime metric, one of the solutions to it, when delta x equal delta y equal delta z equals 0, one of the solutions to it is minus delta s for displacement equal c, the speed of light, delta t. Put in the delta t and notice how the signs all of a sudden become positive. It talks to a possible displacement. So in other words, what these orbs are doing, they're bathing the aircraft in a sea of frequencies, non-ionizing radiation. It's key. And I'll talk to it eventually. We have to possibly, you, me, and Dave Rossi have to write a paper on this eventually.
Bro, Sal Pais, in the first 3 minutes of my interview, is saying that Dave, him, and I need to write a scientific paper about how the orbs are bathing the plane in a non-ionizing radiation. And that the orbs are using some vectoring capability that I can't even wrap my brain around, to be perfectly honest with you guys. And I guess what he's saying there is that the math adds up in a way where you're achieving this huge energy density. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Let me go back a minute. Oh, yeah. So he's saying, I can't quite grasp it. Maybe somebody else can help out. The negative temporal excursion. So what does ChatGPT say? Reverse temporal excursion is like playing a video games backward where the event unfolds in reverse order, but it's a concept more common in science fiction than real science. So this is what I was thinking it was. It's negative time. It's this idea of what is negative time. We know we can change the dial of time dilation. But what is negative time? Is negative time reverting the entropic state of a region to a previous state? I think that's what Sal is saying here. And he's avoiding, like the plague, saying negative energy or negative entropy. Because if you say those words, then everybody says that you're a fraud or you're a pseudoscientist or whatever. But that's clearly what he's alluding to. And this is huge because I think this negative entropic state is a requirement for teleportation. This is how you are rebuilding the wave function for the double slit experiment, and then you're collapsing it. So you're saying, okay, the plane can be anywhere. Now the plane is here. Okay, so let's see if there's any other comments on that. I'm going to let that play again.
It's that freaking simple. That minus delta t talks, you can say, to a reverse temporal excursion, if you want to go that way, or if you consider the Minkowski spacetime metric, one of the solutions to it, when delta x equal delta y equal delta z equals 0, one of the solutions to it is minus delta s for displacement equal c, the speed of light, delta t. Put in the delta t and notice how the signs all of a sudden become positive. It talks to a possible displacement. So in other words, what these orbs are doing, they're bathing the aircraft in a sea of frequencies, non-ionizing radiation. It's key. And I'll talk to it eventually. We have to possibly, you, me, and Dave Rossi have to write a paper on this eventually. Maybe we'll do it in OSF. It's huge. It's so freaking simple and beautiful. But the whole idea is it basically give a method of propulsion whereby when you have this bath of non-ionizing radiation enveloping the aircraft, when you dial up the frequency just from the formula itself, and if you go back into the recording, you'll see the exact formula that I was talking about from application of the chain rule. You basically displace this thing, but it needs the Schwinger limit. It needs for the quote unquote conditioning of the vacuum. So it allows the Minkowski space-time metric to occur in a, how should I say, a modified vacuum. Let's put it that way, a conditioned vacuum. We'll talk more about this, but this is how they displace.
I have more questions on that, and I want to get into it in a few, but what I want to really start with, so yeah, what I'm hearing is basically it's some sort of freezing of time. And really, when it comes to time travel, I think what Sal was getting at there is, what is time travel? And that he wants to write a paper with Sal, with Dave, and Sal, and I about time travel and the concept of time itself, exactly, which is that the entropy of the universe is still moving forward, but you can have a local region of space-time's entropy move backwards, which would mean that you're not going back in time to 1950. You're always moving forward on the universal clock, but you can move your local clock backwards. So what they would really be saying here is essentially that you can live forever. And later on in this interview, that's what I said, is that what Sal is saying is that we can live forever, that we can end aging, which in my opinion is just as big as any form of time travel that's out there. You could argue it's bigger because then you have a population problem. Nobody's going to ever die ever again. People can live forever. You completely would change how our civilization exists. And this is one of those things going back to Tucker Carlson, which is, what if this thing is so big that it's free energy, but it's also that we can end death, that biological beings can live forever? That is something that's big enough that you could see why they would hide it from the rest of the world. I think anybody can see why they would hide it. Whether or not you agree with those rationale, you can still understand why they would do it. Somebody also asked, like, are these things visible? One of the biggest questions I got, could somebody see these? Could the passengers see these? The conclusion I reach now with what I researched is that they can be invisible. They can be visible on any wavelength that they want, which means that they could be any color they want, but they can also just be straight up invisible. They're only detected in infrared. Part of the reason why we are filming in infrared, especially the military, is probably for this reason, because they can be invisible if they want. They can be on a wavelength that we don't visibly see. Pretty scary. And this, to me, explains why we're not seeing more of them out there. They're out there, we just don't see them because they're not in our very narrow wavelength of visible light that we see. Pretty scary, right? You could argue they're vampires for Kimberly James out there. Energy-sucking vampire creatures. Shit, you can connect this stuff to a lot, guys. So that's why a lot of people that are out there, they're like, I think it's aliens. I think it's demons. I think it's angels. I think it's extra-dimensional beings. You know what? You could all be right. I really have no idea. All I know is that we've figured out something about the universe that, for whatever reason, probably biblically significant reasons, the government and intelligence agencies do not want to come out. Partially due to the crimes that they've committed to cover it up, but also because some people that are the gatekeepers think that this technology is the end of the world for us. I think that out of the interview, some of the other biggest points were when Sal says that he believes that Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis could be gatekeepers. Because I want to understand, does he have a relationship with these guys? How is he working on the same physics they're working at? Does he know them? Turns out he doesn't really know them. So it's very possible that our heroes of 0 point energy, the people that have written all the scientific papers about 0 point energy, Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, these guys could be the sub-boss and the final boss of disclosure. They could be the very people writing all the scientific papers about how all this stuff works. Could be the very people hiding it from the public. Scary, huh? How scary is that thought? But it kind of makes sense. It makes sense that the guys that have written all the papers about it, they've come to some conclusion in their minds that they're not going to get the accolades they deserve in life. But after they pass on, 50 years down the road, they will be looked at as heroes. That might not be true if we expose them before this. If we expose that they've been lying about this for decades and they could have been coming out as whistleblowers, but they chose not to for whatever reasons, could tarnish their reputations. So for the people that Eric Davis's, the Hal Puthoffs, the guys that are out there that know this stuff is real, they know that we've got Sibber's footage of UFOs. This is my advice to you. People that go against my advice usually doesn't work well for them. Take it or leave it. Come out and tell the truth before you die. Tell the truth about what you know, what you've been privy to. Screw national security. Just tell the world the unadulterated truth about what you know about the UFO phenomenon, about the energy source, what we've been reverse engineering, how the progress that we've made. Just tell the truth. That's the only way that your legacy will not be tainted. I absolutely promise you, if you think that this is all going to be hidden for another 50 years and that we'll forgive everything that you did 50 years from now, I promise you that's not going to happen. The truth is going to come out, and if you are one of the people that were hiding it, you are not going to get the recognition that you think you're going to get. So, do the right thing, guys. Do the right thing. Okay, last thoughts on the Salvatore Pais interview. I love the interview overall. I learned that I'm absolutely certain Sal knows more about the technology than he lets on. Either he has worked on this technology before, or he worked on something related to this technology, but he knows it's real in a way that he had to have seen it with his own eyes. Simple as that. I don't know. He can't talk about it for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Really, it was somewhat anticlimactic because I've already figured out, I think we've already figured out the real story of the UFO phenomenon. Exotic vacuum objects, this property of plasma that is not mainstream right now. So pat yourselves on the back, guys. Could this be the tech they've been using to control each iteration of civilization every reset? Excuse me. There's a reason they make themselves known with the lights. I think that the lights, people ask, why are they illuminated? Why are the aliens showing us the lights? I think it's a product of the technology. That what happens is when you break the Schwinger limit, photons get released. The lights are just a byproduct. Everybody goes, oh, why do they have lights on them? Why does a drone have lights on it? They don't. They don't have lights on them. So this is the big rub, is that people think that there's drones with lights on them, but then they're going, oh, well, why would it have lights on it? They don't have lights on them. Drones don't have giant lights on them. They don't glow in the sky. So I think it's a natural property of this technology, of the dynamic Casimir effect, where you're breaking through the Schwinger limit and photons are being released. And if that's happening continuously, then it's going to look like a ball of light. And it can be any color they want. A lot of the videos you see of lights where you see some flashing, you're just looking at an airplane. Airplanes flash lights, whatever. So it's hard to say. Sean, I appreciate it. We can have a conversation sometime. Obviously, my profile has gone way up, so it's been hard for me to keep up, but I'm doing my best, guys, to try to respond and do as many podcasts and what have you that I can. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Let me just make sure I hit all of the donations because we had a lot as well. Not as many as that one time where we had like 50. Don't think in terms of decades. Okay, I already got that one. Okay, I think that's all the donations, guys. So once again, big shout out to all the donations that I received tonight, especially this huge one that I got here from Andy. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys very much for supporting. Thank you guys for following along. Make sure you've watched the Salvatore Pais interview. I will watch it again. So any other follow-ups we have, we will talk about tomorrow or on Friday, guys. Yeah, and tomorrow, guys, more talk about 0-point energy, more talk about science. So have a great night, MH370X. Love you guys. Thank you for being in the chat. Peace out, everybody. I'm going to play us out with a song that we haven't heard in a little while. Here we go.
It's H370 until you do some research. Don't talk to me. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. Your opinion, it means squat to me. It's H370. Not all heroes wear capes. I wear glasses to see. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. The trolls hate seeing me succeed. But guess what? H370. Your opinion, it means what to me? Your opinion.